something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
He knows. He's seen the light.
When Monty talks, it's painful.
Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction.
It was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
The Monty man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute. Your host, the Monty Man.
Well, greetings, one and all. Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. I am your host, the Monty Man, and welcome aboard the Good Ship Recovery here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial, broadcasting to you via the internet. And whether you're on your smartphone, or your tablet, or your computer, or whatever gadget they've come up with next, it is good to have you with us. And I'm going to encourage you. Many of you listen to the show on a regular basis, but you don't subscribe to our email blast. And so I'm going to encourage you to do that. When you do that, why? Because, well, first of all, it's free. Second of all, it's not annoying. You're not going to get an email every single day. You're going to get an update Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Or if we have a special workshop or something coming up like a convention or whatever. But it's very small. It's very short. It just says what show is playing that day in the description of that show. Now, the biggest reason I want you to do that is it helps me track our listening audience. That's important for our demographic, so we can present those to future sponsors because they want to know who we're reaching. So if you're not subscribed, it's for fun. It's for free. We don't give out your email. We don't do any of that stuff. We don't try to sell you anything. Please sign up. Just go about halfway through our page at take12radio.com. Or actually, it's usually right below the download MP3 button or the YouTube block. It says subscribe free. And just click on that, type in your email, and you'll get a confirmation email from us to confirm that that's really you. And there you go. So if you would do that, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, Meyer, M-U-Y-E-R. And we're all over social networking, of course, all the major social networking sites. We're Twittering and we're LinkedIning and we're Facebooking and WordPressing and, the list goes on and on. Technology, true? We're right on, you guys. I'm so glad you've joined us. We got a great show for you today. Gary Sherwin is my guest. Now, I met this gentleman at the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference down in Los Angeles at the Westin Airport Hotel and Convention Center. This is a conference that is held every other year. It is primarily facilitated by Dr. Alan Berger and Andrew Martin. And they just do a bang-up job. And I met Gary towards the end of the conference, actually. We were having dinner. And this gentleman sits next to me. And he... just a heck of a nice guy, and we just start, hitting it off, and we start talking, and the next day he's at the booth, and we gave you a little preview of Gary's story here a couple of weeks ago, and we just felt like it was a good idea to share a little bit more about Gary with you. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Gary is a native Californian, and after high school, he went away to college where he joined a fraternity and had his first serious drinking experiences, which resulted in the college not allowing him to continue. He then moved to New York City to make his way in the world and get a job in advertising, which he experienced the home of the 3 Martini lunch. And some of you are going, yeah, I know that one. which was interrupted when he was drafted into the military. Well, after an honorable discharge, he decided to follow Timothy Leary's advice and tune on, tune in, and drop out, which he did for about 10 years, calling himself a hippie adventurer. That's a new one. On his 30th birthday, he decided to get a job. Imagine that. Since then, his business career has included executive positions in public television, major nonprofit organizations, and the real estate industry. He has been self-employed since 1984, and drinking has always been a part of his story. While married and living in an upscale area with 2 children, his life took a major turn on August 28, 2001. As a result of certain events, his interest in addiction and recovery began on that day and has continued without interruption to today. Gary Sherwin is my guest. Welcome aboard, Gary.
Hey, Monty. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my friend. So, you're doing pretty good today, right? I mean, you're having a good day. Is the sun shining down there in Southern California?
Oh, yeah, man. In fact, this is one of those beautiful, sparkling days that we all love and live for here in L.A. It just really is beautiful.
Well, and it's the same here up in Albany, Oregon. And so the listeners know we broadcast worldwide, so there's people in Dubai and Australia and everything. I don't know what their weather's like, but you and I are having a great time. But it wasn't always, sunshine and rainbows for you, was it?
No, definitely not. There were some, there was a lot of dark times that really, when I was in the dark times, didn't realize they were dark times. I mean, they just, it felt like it was, just pretty normal, and I didn't have a great awareness about really where I was or what I was doing. I was just, kind of moving through life, and in retrospect, I can definitely say that there were some dark times. But again, I thought that that's just the way life was. I just thought it was good. I thought everything was normal. I thought it was. Now that I've had the gift of sobriety and clarity, and to think a little bit clearer and see that some of the ideas that I had were erroneous, and I've been able to change the way that I act and react. I can look back in retrospect and say, man, I wouldn't ever want to do that again. And thank God I survived it,
Right. Well, and I'm grateful you did. But so let me ask you. Okay, so you joined a fraternity. You're going to college. You're excited about college. You joined a fraternity. Was part of the reason you joined the fraternity was to experience the freedom of being on your own, and maybe I can party a little bit?
Well, that wasn't the reason I joined the fraternity. Being away at school, I grew up in the Los Angeles area, and I went to school up in San Jose. And so just being away was really my first time away from home, and that was a tremendous amount of freedom in and of itself.
Right.
And the fraternity was just kind of one of those adjunct things that just came along. Whoever I met, I went up there, I lived in, my folks got me a room in the dorms, and I went into the dorms, and then you start talking to people, and to be pardon the expression, I started hustling a little bit in terms of, I couldn't get all the classes I wanted. Somebody knew I was a baseball player. They said, if you go talk to the baseball coach, tell him you want to come out for baseball, he can help you get your classes. So I went and I did that, and that worked out okay. And then, again, the fraternity thing I don't know. I don't even know how it originated, to be honest with you. It wasn't one of those big Greek pledging kinds of things. I just, I met somebody, and I guess they said we were doing this, and I said okay. And, again, my college career at San Jose was very short. It was 1 year long, and again, we played Stanford. I remember going to a game up at Stanford, and the older guys were all, driving, I guess. I don't remember how we got there. I didn't have a car up there. You drink, that's all. And, so that's what I did. And it wasn't as though, there was only one time I had to pull a trash can up by my bed that I remember. But, it was that kind of a thing. So I guess I like to drink right from the get-go. I like the effect. I didn't like really really the taste, but I'm sure I liked the effect. And sometimes I just didn't know where my limit was, So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I attended some art classes at San Jose State University. I also attended San Jose Bible College, which was located, it was a little small campus, located there at the end of, I think, 12th Street and where Highway 280 are. Or it was called 280 back then. I drove cab for King Cab, Yellow Cab, and Alpha Cab in San Jose. So we have some of the same stomping grounds. It is indeed a small world, especially within the recovery community, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. No doubt. Was the tower there? Was when you were there? I don't know when you were there. I was there in 63. So. Yeah.
I was there I graduated high school in 1973, and I went on to there about 75 or so.
Okay. Because it's changed a lot since I was there.
Oh my goodness, it has.
Harry Edwards, the big sports guy, he was there, and those Ron Carlos was his name Juan Carlos, I think. The two black guys that did the black fist thing at the Olympics in 60 was it? Could it have been 64? Anyway, they were there, so it was a pretty big. Just starting all of the the freedom bus rides and stuff, and
oh yeah,
it was a pretty exciting time to really be alive and to grow up. I mean, I really feel like it was an exciting thing, and quite frankly, I was conflicted because I thought, geez, should I be doing more? Should I be going down for those bus rides? And I don't know, it just wasn't into my
right.
It wasn't what I was cut for, I guess. But
I hear you.
Exciting time for sure,
Okay, so the drinking got away from you, and the tail started wagging the dog, right?
Yeah, but I think that I don't know. Okay, so here's when I was 16, I was in a club in high school, and we all decided that we were going to get drunk. That was the goal. I'd never been drunk. A friend of mine had a garage that was set up as another room, and somebody bought us the booze, and I drank a pint of scotch in 15 minutes, and I think I had a screwdriver after that and a beer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was the last thing. I mean, I remember them dragging me across the floor, and I remember puking a bunch, and that was, and I was hungover for a couple of days afterwards, and I thought, boy, that really, because after that I never got that. I don't think I ever got that drunk again. But that was kind of, I say, now that really kind of honed me by fire, I guess. And I always thought that I could, that I was a good drinker, but it was never really, a serious. I mean, it wasn't something that I thought was important. It was just something that I did.
Sure.
Now, I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
It's like even when I was, so when I, again, in college, I did a little bit of that. Somebody gave me a pill to stay up one night for finals, and I guess they called it, there was a Black Beauty, and the ironic thing is this was the one class that I was doing really well in, and it'll make you sharp. And so I stayed up all night. I didn't have to. I didn't feel like I had to cram. I got in the test, and I started getting itchy all over and having I couldn't wait to get out of there. I mean, it was just, life is a journey. Those were some experiences that I just wouldn't ever want to have to, I had to learn the hard way, I guess, I don't know. So,
yeah.
And then, again, when I flunked out of school, I mean, they wouldn't let me back in. My grades were not good enough, and to continue. And I took off for New York, and you could drink legally at 18 in New York when I was there, and I was 19, so that was perfect. And the guys would go out. I mean, I couldn't drink with those guys. They were, they'd have a big tumbler of vodka, Beefeater gin martinis is what they would drink. It was just mostly gin and nothing else. And they'd have 2 or 3 of those at lunch, and I couldn't drink with those guys. And actually, ironically, that one of the guys came in. I just had an entry-level position. I ran a little file room of the art department, and one guy came in and said, "Look, if so-and-so comes in here, you don't let him in. This is your room. You don't let him in." I said, "Okay, why?" Turns out he was an alcoholic, and he used to hide his bottles in the file folder behind all the file folders. And,
that's great.
So that was kind of my first thing about whatever, an alcoholic was. But
right.
No, I don't know. It just, it was a slow, progressive thing. I did, I started in high school, went to a couple of parties. When I got into the Army, I drank a little bit more. I was stationed in Germany, and we went up to Amsterdam. I bought a little weed for the first time. It was just a progressive kind of just drinking was always just a part of my life, and it wasn't a big part. It wasn't though, I felt driven to go and drink. It was just, that's what I did. If I was working or whatever I was doing, it was just always a part of who I was. In fact, fast forward to when I came into AA as a result of the DUI that I got, or the DUI that I got, I said, how in the world am I ever going to stay sober? I literally didn't think that I could carry on a conversation, that I could stand up straight, that I could take a breath without a drink in my hand. I could not conceive of being who I am today, or being anybody without a drink involved. And
right.
That was just a natural part. And I was not, I didn't drink a fifth of booze a day. I didn't, it was just whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Gary, we're going to take a break, and let's hold that thought, because I want to pick it up from there, and let's tell the listeners, what was it that moved you from not thinking that you could ever survive not having a few drinks and that just being part of your life into this whole recovery thing? Something had to take place. We'll talk about that when we come back. Folks, don't go away. More with my guest, Gary Sherwin, when we come back. Foundations Recovery Network invites you to attend Innovations in Recovery, March 30th through April 2nd, 2015, at the prestigious Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego, California. Innovations in Recovery is about the discovery and discussion of effective solutions for professionals and their patients. As the landscape of behavioral health continues to change, shaped by scientific advances and the challenges of our modern world, staying up to date in the treatment field has never been more important. Professionals will learn best practices for treating co-occurring addiction and mental health disorders, process addictions, unconventional and unwilling populations, and how to facilitate a framework for the long-term recovery of their patients. Psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, clinicians, therapists, social work, intervention, treatment providers, medical staff, treatment professionals of all kinds can benefit from the dynamic workshops, keynotes, and networking opportunities at the Innovations in Recovery Conference, March 30th through April 2nd. To register for this conference, visit foundationsevents.com.
Free by the Sea is a drug and alcohol recovery center located in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington. This facility is amazingly gorgeous, but what's even more amazing is the integrity of the staff and the treatment provided for those wishing to recover from narcotic and alcohol addiction. The folks at Free by the Sea have a passion for presenting the solution to addiction for you or your loved one. To speak with an admissions specialist, visit freebythesea.com or call toll-free 800-272-9199. This place is simply amazing.
All right, welcome back. And by the way, if you like golf and you like conventions, the Foundation's convention, the Innovations in Recovery, they're having a golf tournament, which will begin at 8 o'clock on Sunday, March 29th. The tournament is limited to 48 golfers and will be held at Riverwalk Golf Course at 1150 Fashion Valley Road in San Diego. The tournament is restricted to conference attendees only. You will register through your conference registration available at foundationsevents.com. So if you like to golf, join in for that thing. All right. So Gary Sherman is my guest. I met him down at the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Seminar in Los Angeles here just a few weeks ago. And he's been sharing his experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, what happened, what it's like today. So, Gary, what happened, man? I mean, at some point, you kind of changed course. What was going on?
Well, I guess the first change that happened to me was when I was, 30 years old, and I was sitting on a sitting on a park bench drinking a beer with people I didn't know or care about, and I knew didn't care about me. And I had an epiphany. I said, do I still want to be doing this when I'm 40? And the answer to that was no. So I decided I better go get a job and start to get my life together a little bit. So, but I didn't quit drinking. So, I continued and actually I met and married my wife a couple years later. So, and then I quit. I would quit using weed for the most part because that was illegal. Now I was married, I had to settle down and all that jazz. What got me, and again, we were, I drank with my wife. She was not a big drinker. She, that song by that group that Bob Dylan came real close to, and they call it a drunkard's dream. If I ever did see one, well, that was my wife. She was my dream. She'd have 2 drinks, and that was it. And I thought, okay, well, great, I can keep drinking because she's done. So,
right.
But we, and listen, we had a family. I was working. I worked except for a little like 2-3 months maybe in between jobs one time. But I worked continuously. While we were married, we lived in a nice neighborhood. We were able to raise our kids in a nice area, send them to good schools. I would, for all intents and purposes, I guess that phrase, a functioning alcoholic or whatever would certainly apply, or a high bottom drunk or whatever you want to call it. And none of that I feel at the time that I was experiencing all that I was going through it. I just felt like I worked. My MO was if something upset me while I was working in the morning, I'd go out at lunch and I'd have a couple of drinks to settle down. If it upset me in the afternoon, if I got a phone call, and it could be just somebody asking me a simple question. It didn't have to be, well, it certainly wasn't any. I was very, very good at what I did. I worked with 40, maybe 40 other people, something like that. I was always in the top 10 when it came to sales and stuff like that. So, I achieved at a very high level, but again, the drinking and stuff was just a part of my life, and if something upset me in the afternoon, then I'd go out to happy hour, but I'd have, I'd get my buzz on, I'd be home by 7 o'clock, go out at 5, have a couple of shots of tequila, a couple of beers, and that would give me a buzz. And if I asked my daughter today, which, again, I never had conversations with my kids, I grew up and I guess taught them as well that kids should be seen and not heard. That's the way that I grew up, and that's
right.
The fatherly, direction that I did with them as well in raising them, for the most part. Okay, again, I did a lot of other things that I didn't get from my dad that I felt I wanted to give to my kids, so I did that too. But anyway, so all of that to say that when you ask me what happened, there's still an experience that I had that when I share it, it still freaks me out, and that is that there was a tequila tasting party that these purveyors of tequila had in Pasadena, which is about an hour's drive from where I live, and so we all agreed, all of my drinking buddies, we all agreed that we would go there. Those tables that they set up, there were two purveyors at each table. There were about 7 tables, and they all had three different things, 3 different grades of tequila or whatever, and we worked our way through that. By 7 o'clock, we had tasted them all and sat down and had dinner by 10 o'clock. And my friend, as we were leaving, said, I don't know where the freeway is. And I said, well, I know where the freeway is, but how we got home, I don't remember. And it just scares me to think that I did that. And that's certainly one of the stories. But the defining factor for me was finally getting a DUI, finally getting stopped for being under the influence. I had gone to lunch with an old mentor of mine, actually an employer of mine. We met at 11 o'clock at his house as usual. I had a couple of drinks at his house. We drove down the hill. I had a couple of drinks at lunch. We drove back up the hill to his house. I had a couple of more drinks. And by 4 o'clock, I had left his house and got stopped about half a block away from where I worked, and on the lived. I was fortunate. I had an office right near where I lived. And, by 4:30, I was arrested. I wasn't, my wife happened to drive by. She saw me handcuffed. That was kind of, awful. And then, while I was uncooperative, I did not want to blow into their breathalyzer because I knew I was going to, blow whatever.
Yeah.
What? Because I'd been drinking, and so I was just out, and finally around 7 or 8 o'clock that night, they took some blood, took me over to the hospital, and they took some blood, and anyway, so, but while I was in jail, that night, it was so from 4:30 in the afternoon, 7 o'clock they took my blood, by 2 o'clock in the morning, and they take your watch, so I could only estimate that it was 2 o'clock, but I was supposed to take my daughter to her first day of high school the very next day. I had always taken my kids to school. My wife had always picked them up. And the thought crossed my mind that if my wife had to take my daughter to school because I was in jail, and my daughter asked her, where's Daddy? How come Daddy's not taking me to jail? Daddy's not taking me to school. And she said that, well, Daddy's in jail because he was drinking. That thought so humiliated me and it was so shameful to me that I said, that's it. I'm never going to do this again, no matter how much I like it. And I will tell you, I like drinking and I like smoking weed and getting high. And I don't know if I'd still like it today, but I can tell you I like it. I just don't do it. And I liked it then. And I said, no matter how much I like it, that I'm never going to do that again. And that was the last day. That was the last day I ever had a drink or any artificial substance. And it took me about another 6 months to get into AA. I'm really grateful that I did because it gave me some tools for living. I was not comfortable in my own skin during those 6 months. I did it by sheer holding on blood and guts. But
so you just quit cold turkey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm done. And again, there were still lots of things that came up and that, I felt really uncomfortable. And when I finally did go to AA as a result of my court case and all, there were more than once where I had to go to 2 or 3 meetings a day just because I was so uncomfortable, with what was going on. And so I suspect my body was reacting to it as well as emotionally. I just didn't have any tools for living. I didn't know how to deal effectively with my emotions. I that everybody has emotions, and that you don't have to go out and drink because you don't feel good, or you don't have to smoke weed because you don't feel good, or whatever, because you want to feel happy. And I just didn't know any of that. It just nobody instructed me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, now I could tell other folks, and I would like to say, if anybody's listening, that your feelings will not kill you. Your emotions will not kill you. We all, and as you know, I think I mentioned this to you. My wife, after 35 years, passed away. She was
right.
She was sick for about 6 years. She had lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, which we discovered a couple of years after we were married, and she was, she lived under doctor's care with that for years, and when she passed away, and I took care of her for 6 years as her caregiver and hired caregivers and changed kind of the nature of the way that I lived my life, and my work situation changed slightly, and I did all of that, and at her passing, and all, I was very, very sad. It was a very, and so she passed away in 2013 in September, and 2014 September was a year, and it was really, there was a whole experience I had about the grief process and about the sadness going through that and all that jazz, and it was really the most profound and saddest thing that I've ever experienced in my life, but I got through it okay. Conversely, when I first got sober, we had a group of about 14 friends, and we would all go to weddings and stuff like that of friends' kids and one thing and another. And, of course, whenever we were sat down at a table, you sit down at a couple, you're at table 14, okay? As soon as everybody sits down, all the guys get up and go to the bar. All the women go and sit at one table.
Yeah.
So when I was first sober, I'll never forget, the first event I went to like that, where I'm sitting at the table all by myself. All the guys are up at the bar, and all the women are sitting and talking to each other. I felt very uncomfortable. I'm looking at, oh my God, but I got through it.
Yeah. Did you, Gary? Let me ask you this question. Did it ever cross your mind? I think it probably crossed every spouse's mind at some point in their relationship with their spouse that, how am I going to feel? What am I going to do? How am I going to get through it if my spouse passes away before I do? Did that cross your mind? Did you ever kind of sit in that kind of mode for a while? This is, before you quit drinking?
To be honest with you, I don't think so. I don't know. I suspect there was probably some time, but it wasn't something that I dwelled on.
Yeah.
Again, I was blessed that they say that we marry up, and that I certainly did. And
yeah, me too.
The more I'm without her now, the more I realize how really lucky I was. And and again, we did not have, of course. Well, I don't know what a perfect relationship is. In any kind of long-term relationship, anybody who tells me that they don't argue, that they don't have fights, to me it's just lying. I mean, I just can't imagine you can have, a 35-year relationship with somebody and not have, arguments and differences. And we did, just like any couple. But again, being without her now, again, I look back and I see my kids and now my grandson, and I realize, how great she was for me, how much she helped me have a family, how much she motivated me for, my business career, but no, I never really dwelled on, actually I've been thinking about me dying since I was little. I mean, I've always thought that, well, no matter what anybody says, I still got to die all by myself. Nobody's going to help me with that. So that was...
I can't even, and I don't dwell on it either, but I do have those fleeting moments when I think, I don't know how I would emotionally maneuver through the death of my wife, because I too, like you, definitely married up, and yet I hear stories like yours. I witness people within the 12-step support meetings that go through this stuff all the time, and they do come out the other end, and they're living life to the fullest. And that just tells me that, we don't have to use or drink. True?
We are what? I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
It just tells me no matter what, we don't have to use or drink if we've actually applied the principles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. And again, I have really grown up in AA. I don't know if I mentioned this time or not, but my sobriety date is August 28, 2001. Well, you mentioned it, I guess.
Right.
And I think with the loss of my wife too, I mean, I have such a great appreciation for life today. I mean, I really savor it. I want to squeeze every ounce of joy and love out of every moment. I mean, it's just so precious, and I don't think there's no way if I were drinking and using that I could ever have that feel. I had no feelings when I was drinking and using, and that's what I used to drink. I used to drink alcohol when I was sad to ease the pain, and I used to smoke pot in order to feel happy. I didn't know how to feel happy unless I was smoking pot. It's the only thing that made me feel good. Now, excuse me. Now I just feel a calmness, a serenity, a joyfulness in my life every single day, and about the littlest of things. I mean, it's amazing. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, we're going to take our next break, and when we get back, more with my guest, Gary Sherwin. When we return, just a wonderful and powerful story of experience, strength, and hope. Folks, don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
I had this illness that really made me powerless over alcohol, and that insisted that I got drunk. And so I got drunk. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to control it. An alcoholic who picks up the first drink will pick up the second drink. I can't say to anyone, no, don't drink. But I can say that when you decide you don't want to drink, come to AA. The door to AA is always open. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. The Rabia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. The Rabia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Hello, is there anybody in there? Just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? Come on now.
Well, welcome back, my friends. Is there anybody out there? I certainly hope so. It is because of you that we stay on the air. And your name doesn't have to be pink or be in a movie to enjoy Take 12 Radio at take12radio.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your internet dial. Gary Sherwin is my guest this week, staying sane and sober through loss and hope, really. These are painful events when we lose people that are so dear and close to us, and yet we know that through the process of recovery, in this particular case, a 12-step process, a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps, we are able to move forward in our lives and enjoy life not only on life's terms but on God's terms, right, Gary?
Yeah, absolutely. So
you are interested in this field. You have been for a while, and you're doing some things to move forward in that. Tell the listeners what you're up to.
Well, thanks, Monty. I really appreciate it, and thank you for providing this platform. I think it's just great. I was so excited about meeting you and about the fact that all this information is out there. My experience, my story is coming up through AA as a result of the DUI, but there is a lot more ways to get sober, and whether it's in a recovery home, a sober living house, or whatever it is. And so I embrace all of that. Anybody that wants to get sober, I believe, deserves to get sober if they're willing to work at it. You can do it. I know that. And so for me, I've been very fortunate that I when I came into AA, I started hearing some things that I related to, and they said get a sponsor, work the steps, and I did. And somebody invited me to this men's step study group, and I did that. We worked the steps in a very rigorous manner. And I did that, and it really helped me, I think, form the foundation that I have today. And I still practice and incorporate those steps into my life on a daily basis. The 12 step says that we practice these principles. There's principles. Can you imagine that I went through life not knowing what my principles were?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know, about you're not supposed to steal, the 10 Commandments, don't steal, don't murder, don't do this. But to know really what I will do, what I won't do, what's right, what's wrong, who I am. I mean, all of that I've learned, and I'm no spring chicken. You know that. I mean, I've given you some of the dates. You can do the math. I told you I'm going to be 70 years old in August this year. And
by the way, listeners, he doesn't look a day over 55. And that's absolutely true. It's all that clean living, Gary.
Yeah, either well preserved from all the alcohol I had, or I think more appropriate is probably, I believe that it's just a good spiritual connection. I'm so blessed. I came into AA as an agnostic. I thought, I guess there's a God. That was about as far as I took that.
Right.
Got into AA, and it really bothered me a little bit, all that God talk at first about AA, but I just kept coming back, and I kept listening, and I kept doing it. And my path and my connection with my higher power has just evolved over time. And I believe that I have a strong connection with what I consider as my higher power, which I call God, and just it works for me. And I want to be able to tell everybody and help everybody who wants to get sober, who's struggling with any kind of addiction, that there is hope out there. You don't have to live as a slave to drugs and to alcohol, to whatever substance you're using. So for me, again, I'm actually taking classes now at UCLA. I was fortunate to be one of 3 of the first inaugural recipients of a scholarship to go through a drug and alcohol abuse counselor certification program at UCLA. So I'm currently in the process of doing that. I'll finish that in August. And I'm currently picking up a couple of shifts at a residential treatment center. So I'd like to work a little bit more with clients than what I'm actually doing right now, but it's my first venture into this. And again, I just love what's so exciting about working at this residential treatment center is that you see people come in either the day they're coming in or a day or two after, or whenever my shift comes up that I see them. And then a couple of weeks go by, and you see them starting to get better, and that's really exciting to see people get healthy and to, they realize that, they're getting as they get their body clean. I mean, we've all heard it, but physically, drugs mess you up. I mean, they mess your mind, they change your mental chemistry physiologically, So as soon as you get some of that stuff out of your system, and then you're open, then you can be open to hearing some new things, getting some new ideas, and changing your thinking and changing your attitude, which changes your behavior, which changes your life. And it's been a wonderful ride for me. And again, I've had some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows in my sobriety. And that's okay. They say, the good news is that you're going to get your feelings back. The bad news is you're going to get your feelings back. You get a little bit of both with that.
You do.
Again, the biggest thing, and I learned this actually from Alan Berger, and that is that your feelings are not going. They're not going to kill you. Your emotions are not going to kill you.
Right.
If you can just sit in it and know that that it's okay to be sad. I mean, given my druthers, I'd rather be happy, of course.
Sure.
I think we all would, but that sadness comes, and sadness is for a loss of anything, a loss of a job, a loss of a friend, a death of a spouse. I mean, whatever it might be, it's all whatever it is, and it's okay. Welcome to the human race, people. Good, we got both happy and sad, happy stuff and good and bad and sad stuff. That's okay.
Yeah. It is, and it's vital that we allow ourselves to experience these things. It's
absolutely
so we can experience what, like Dr. Berger says, our true self, and really, and welcome that. Gary, go ahead and tell us where in Malibu that you are putting in some hours, so we can give them a shameless plug.
Okay, fine. Yeah, it's called Seasons in Malibu. It's a residential treatment center, SEASONS, Seasons in Malibu, and it's they have a variety of things that they do. They have the clients all feel happy, that they're. I've seen people come in that are very antagonistic towards the process, and it takes them a few days to get the drugs and stuff out of the system. They got doctors on staff, they got therapists on staff. It's a good place.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I just kudos to you for doing that. Sometimes within our 12-step support fellowships, people know me well enough. I separate the program and the fellowship because they can be two very different things. Once in a while, they'll mesh together and be on the same page, and that's always really wonderful. But sometimes within our fellowships, we can kind of get this false sense that the only kind of service work that's really authentic is within the 12-step fellowships, and that's just not true. There is all sorts of work that we can do and need to be doing outside of the rooms. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that Dr. Berger is working on, one of the things that when I first met him about, maybe 5 years ago, I guess. Anyway, he was leading a workshop with a friend of mine who I went to hear, and the name of the workshop was Emotional Sobriety and Spiritual Sobriety. And I've never heard that term, emotional sobriety, and Alan led that. And Alan took it from a letter that was published in the Grapevine that Bill Wilson had written to a friend of his who had, after 20 years of sobriety, had complained about still being depressed. And Bill had written this letter to him, which was published, where he talked about how he had to he realized that even though he said the 11-step prayer, and even though he the St. Francis prayer and all this stuff, he still wasn't able to get over that depression. And he realized that he was always dependent on other people's opinion or things or whatever of who he was and how he was doing. And he said he had to give up. He realized he had to give up that dependence on other people, other things, and AA.
Yeah.
He had become dependent on AA and the feedback and all of the very good stuff that we get from AA, but he had become dependent on who he was as in regards to his relationship through AA, And so, yeah, I think again, I think there's a variety of things that we can do, a variety of ways that we can be of service. For me, the easiest and quickest way is just doing the right thing right now, and thank God I know what that is. The right thing used to be whatever I could do to get by, but for me now it has a much higher, deeper meaning than that. So.
And I'm scrambling here to look something up. Okay, I found it. And Dr. Berger has done a workshop with us in the past. And folks, you can listen to that. If you go to take12radio.com, over on the left-hand side, under workshops, it'll say Step-by-Step Towards Emotional Sobriety with Dr. Alan Berger, and where he talks about a lot of these things that Gary is mentioning. And it's true. Oh, Gary, you were so right on, because Bill talked about he was becoming dependent on the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he saw that, and I think, and boy, we camp out on this a lot on this station, but people become so meeting dependent in the chapter Working with Others, referring to someone who's going to work with a new prospect. It says, remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. Right. But and so what I see, and it concerns me, is we've become meaning dependent. We even become step dependent instead of dependent on who the steps are pointing us to, and we become sponsor dependent. And if I can't get to a meeting, I'm going to drink and blah blah blah. There's those AA groups. I think they're called loner meetings, and once a year or once every couple of years, when they have the world conventions, they'll show up. They have a table and they'll show up. These are folks that are doing this thing solo. They're like in the Antarctic at a weather station, or in the jungles of, mambo bombo somewhere, and there's no AA meetings, there's no fellowship, there's no church, no synagogue, no nothing. And they're able to dig into the literature and get a connection with their creator, and they're able to be restored to sanity. And I think sometimes we forget that. And don't you? I mean, in your experience of going to 12-step support meetings, haven't you kind of seen a leaning towards the fellowship more than towards spirituality?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, you get in some of these meetings, and you hear people, and listen. I think talking is, and not keeping any secrets and getting things out. I think
right.
It's very important. But a lot of times, the meetings will turn into whiny cry. My cat is this. I couldn't find her for 3 hours. I didn't know what I was. Okay, fine. Whatever. But for me, I found meetings. I found men's stag meetings where we worked the stag, where we really did some work, and I'm all fine with the fellowship. But I think a lot of times people mistake the fellowship or going to meetings for getting sober, and
yeah,
I just don't think that at least in my experience, I've seen a lot of people come in and sit at meetings, and I don't want to be a big book thumper or a step thumper, but that's how I got sober. That's my experience, and I think I shared with you the last time we talked, that I needed somebody tough to help me get through, these things, and I took it very seriously, and I wanted to I didn't want to drink anymore. That was all. I just didn't want to drink, and I didn't know how to do it, and so, yeah, the fellowship is great, and there's some great people, and I've been to some fun parties, Memorial Day parties where nobody is drinking, and it's great, and there's some great people in AA. But again, I think the greatest gift that I've gotten is, well, I've gotten many gifts, but certainly one of the greatest gifts for me is for me just to be present, to be aware of where I am right here, right now, in this moment, with you. When I get off the phone with you, I'll be present with wherever I am next.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is the greatest gift that I've gotten, I think, out of it, because I'm just aware of what's going on, and in that moment, I can make, I have clarity. I have clarity about who I am and about what I'll do and about, who's full of, what. On this radio, I'm going to try not to swear, and and who isn't. And when I hear the truth and when I, hear what that is, I'm open to that, and I can, and I can have that experience. So it's one of the great gifts. I've gotten so many gifts, Monty, and I really want to thank you for allowing me to just kind of do this. And I hope that, if there's one person that listens to this, who hears something that they can relate to, and they decide to get some help as a result of it, God bless them, man, and God bless you for that, for providing this opportunity. Honestly,
you bet.
It's so exciting, man, because honestly, I had no idea. I knew nothing about AA when I got into it, and I knew nothing about where my head was at or what was going on. I was just, going through life, man, trying to get by. And, now, again, no matter what I have, man, my life is a lot more than just getting by.
Have you seen the film Anonymous People?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Have you seen the film Anonymous People? It's a film called
something about anonymous people. I missed one.
Yeah, it's called The Anonymous People. It's an actual film, a documentary. Have you seen that?
Oh no, I haven't. No.
If you ever get a chance to do that, it would really be worth your while. And one of the things that it talks about, really the main core of the whole thing, is that we've been hiding in our basements of our churches, synagogues, and meeting halls for so long, misunderstanding the anonymity tradition, and not letting the rest of the world know this thing works. And because we've misunderstood the anonymity tradition, anonymity is about getting out of God's way and letting other people join in this whole thing together. It's about not taking credit for all these things, these wonderful things in my life. It's about having some humility. It's not about not using my last name, for crying out loud. it's our public relations policy that's based on attraction rather than promotion, not our personal stories. And the anonymous people talks about, how important it is to let people know that recovery works, that the 12-step process works, that other processes will work if we'll step up to the plate and help usher people into the solution. But we can't do it if we hide. And so I appreciate your willingness to come out to the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference. That's how we met, to come on the show, to share your experience, strength, and hope. If we don't do this, nobody out there is going to know this thing works. And then we've only got ourselves to blame, right?
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's so great. And it's true. And again, I know I've mentioned it to you before, but, again, I don't have any problem, for me, using my last name, or for me, telling people, I mentioned this to you, I think the last time we spoke, that, when I decided to hang my real estate license with another company, and they were ready to hire me, I told them, I said, look, I got to let you know, I'm in, two things. One, my wife is sick and I'm going to take care of her, and two, I'm in recovery, and I want you to know. You still want to hire me? Okay, let's move forward. But, I want everybody to know, and that was the best thing that you said, I think, is that let other people know that recovery is possible and that it works.
Yeah.
And that certainly has been my experience. And I'm so grateful for that. I really am. It's just, I can't tell you, I wish I could tell you all the good stuff. It just, it's like a light bulb, like my room would just be brilliant white right now if I could tell you all of the stuff that I've gotten and how great I feel as a result of just being sober.
Yeah.
Just being sober.
It's amazing.
I still work. I still, have disappointments. I still, do things. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The way that what sobriety has given me is an opportunity to be open to first of all, it's given me a spiritual connection, and again, without being maudlin or anything else or beating any drum. I'm just grateful for that. I thought there was a God. I have a very strong connection with what I consider my higher power. I meditate and I pray every day, and it's a habit that will not let me not do that.
Right.
Right. And so I just got to that point, and it's my gift to myself. It settles me down. It lets me get ready to start for the day, and it's just, I just sit there quietly for 20 minutes. Usually it runs, and it gets me ready to go. And I'm
That's
so
awesome.
grateful for that. I have such a great appreciation. And I really hope that somebody hears something that can get them started on that path. Recovery is a process. It takes a long time. For me, it'll be something hopefully I'll be doing for the rest of my life. That I know it's a one day at a time present, a gift that you have to work at in order to keep. And so I'm willing to do that. But it's been a great ride so far, and I really, really hope that anybody who's struggling can find somebody to help and get the help they need. And certainly AA is a good place to start as far as I'm concerned.
Folks, if you need some suggestions on where you can make that beginning, please feel free to email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. You can visit AA.org or NA.org. You can visit celebraterecovery.com, Alcoholics for Christ. I mean, there is just an enormous amount. Look, there's no excuse that a person can come up with based on there's no recovery outlets out there. There are thousands of them. The lie is dead, my friends. We can and do recover. Right, Gary?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You bet. All right, Gary, thank you so much for taking this hour with us and sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Hey, thank you, Monty. I really appreciate it. It's a blast for me to be a part of this, and it's so cool, man, get to know you. And I just really can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it.
Right on. All right, folks. Gary Sherwin has been my guest this week. And listen, we have a website, we have social networking, we have technology out the wazoo. There's no reason to keep this stuff secret. Please pass it on. Take12radio.com. on your internet dial. Next week, by the way, on the show, I'm welcoming back author Misty B. She is the author of a new book. She's got a couple out called Forgive Us Our Debts, Please. Daily humor for debtors, compulsive spenders, and under-earners. And it is an absolutely hilarious book and serious at the same time. It's great stuff. It's easy read. It's a daily thing. Join us next Friday, would you please, for Forgive Us Our Debts, Please. Misty B. She is one of us, and you're going to love her. She's been on the show before with her book. I think it was called If You Leave Me, Can I Come With You? About codependency. Oh, man. All right, my friends. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Gary Sherwin, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.